Jeff Riley, shares of Synthetic Biologics are up over 70% this year, from $1.50 to around $2.50. But before we talk about the stock and your outlook for next year, tell me a little bit more about Synthetic Biologics, how you differ from what's already on the market when it comes to your GI drugs.
Thanks for having me here. Our GI drugs are unique, primarily because they're incredibly safe, there's no off-target activity, and they have a profound impact on the underlying cause of these problems for these particular patients. So we're not treating the symptoms, we're treating the underlying causes.
All right, and you just finished a phase 2 study for irritable bowel syndrome. Can you talk about the results of that study and what your expectations are for 2016?
You bet. So the type of irritable bowel syndrome that we're focused on is the constipation. And this is a collaboration between us and Cedars-Sinai, which originally developed the drug rifaximin, or Xifaxan, which was a Salix drug, which now is owned by Valeant Pharmaceuticals. Our drug, we just finished the phase 2. We announced the data today. You can find that data on our website with all the slides. Basically, we're treating the underlying cause. So what causes the problem? Too much methane gas, which is caused by these microorganisms that live in your intestinal tract. So if you knock out the methane gas, you knock out the problem.
All right, so you finished that phase 2 study. What's the timeline from here on in?
So we're going to have an end of phase 2 study or discussion with the FDA sometime early next year. We have a second phase 2 that's ongoing. We hope to have that data in early next year as well. After the phase 2 discussion with the FDA, we are designing, as we speak, a phase 3 study, and somewhere toward the middle of next year we'll have that phase 3 study up and running, and that's obviously a registration trial, and hopefully we can get this into physicians' hands sooner rather than later.
And you're also looking at a phase 2 study for your C. diff drug, which is another type of bug, right?
That's correct. So the Clostridium difficile is the name of this particular bug. This is the #1 hospital-acquired infection in the United States. #1 on the CDC hit list. They want to get this guy killed and out of the system. We have a drug basically that can fix that problem. Antibiotics kill all bugs in your system, not just the good ones and the bad ones. We want them to only kill the bad ones. So our drug protects the good ones.
And you mentioned previously that Valeant was in the irritable bowel space. Who are you competing with in the C. diff space?
C. diff space tends to be antibiotic-driven companies. So that would be a Merck with vancomycin or Defecit as an example. That was the old Cubist Optimer drug. There are some other drugs in development with Sanofi and Pfizer trying to come up with vaccine type of approaches. But we are the only point-of-care prevention that is in development at this stage.
And your timeline for this one?
We're hoping to have the phase 2B studies done by middle of next year. Then obviously the same pathway from an FDA perspective. We'll have an end of phase 2 discussion with these guys and then move into a phase 3 as quickly as we can after that.
And I think you have over $30 million in cash and actually no debt. So can you talk about your burn rate and if you have enough money to make it over the end line to the end zone with these two particular drugs, or are you going to have to tap the markets for more?
We raised enough capital back in July of last year to get us through all of these phase 2s. So that's what we're doing. We are in partnering discussions on a couple of our drugs and seeing if we can find some ways to raise non-dilutive capital, but it's likely that as we go into the phase 3s, we'll probably need to do another capital raise sometime next year.
All right, well, thanks a lot, Jeff Riley.
Thank you, and thanks for your time.
Thank you for watching The Street.